Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today I'm going to be making some autumn-inspired flower buds on the quilling comb. I'm using the Super Looper quilling comb. I like to grab this one because of the two different spacing on the teeth, but I'm only going to be using the wider spaced teeth today, so if you don't have that comb, any quilling comb you have should work just fine. I have a whole bunch of different fall colored quilling strips here. I'll mention them specifically by name when I'm using them on the flower, so we won't go over that just yet. I have my needle tool here. We're going to be using that in a couple different parts. The glue of the day is the Elmer's glue wall in my needle nose container. If you prefer to cut your quilling paper when it's on a quilling comb, you might want to grab some small scissors also. We are going to be using our cork board to build some of our flower buds, so I have mine covered in parchment paper and some pins. And then if you like to be really precise with your measurements, you're going to want to grab a ruler. The first thing we're going to do is make the very center of our flower buds. We're working from the inside out, so this is going to be the most inside layer of our flower bud. Tearing off about 3 inches, this strip was originally 18 inches, so we need about 15 for this piece. And all we're going to be doing is just making a standard teardrop. So I am using my needle tool for this. You can use your slotted tool for this part if you want to. And it's just a matter of rolling it from end to end on our tool. Sometimes with these longer strips, it might be easier to take it off and finish it by hand. That's up to you. Let it open up fairly naturally in my hands, just like so. And then you can either glue first or pinch first, it's up to you. But I went ahead and pinched one side for that teardrop shape, and now we're just going to glue down the tail just to seal that, and that is the very first layer of our little flower buds. We're going to go ahead and put that aside and work on the next part. And for the next part, we are going to be building this on our quilling comb as promised. We're actually doing 2 different techniques on the quilling comb for this flower. This is going to be the first of the 2. For this one, I like to roll it a little bit on my needle tool to make an anchor. A slotted tool will not work for this part because it's going to leave that little indent in the center. And you want to be able to, after you do a couple turns on your needle tool, take it off and then just slide it onto your quilling comb. I'm putting mine right around the center of the widest teeth on this comb. I put my tail to the back, and then holding it with my finger on the other hand, I just am weaving it from the back to the front and gaining a tooth on the top and bottom every time. So I have that anchor right in the center. With my tail to the back, I brought it up 1 tooth on the bottom, wrapped it around the front, went up 1 tooth on the top. And I'm doing that back and forth, not gluing anything, just going back and forth until I get 6 teeth on either side of that center anchor. So I think this is just about done here. Let's hold that in the back. I have my center, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we need to do 1 more on either side, and then holding that tail in the back, I'm just going to flip the whole thing over. I'm holding down that tail right in the middle with my thumb, and then I'm going to tear off anything beyond that. And it's just a matter of putting a little bit of glue on the end there. Once your glue bottle decides to cooperate, there we go. And then we're just going to press that back down to seal. You can even use a little bit less glue than that. You just want a little bit right on the end. And there we go. Now, once you have that nice and set, it should look something like this. And then you should be able to slide it right off of your quilling comb. And even though we only glued down that tail, just that little bit at the end, it really will only open up about that much. It's not going to completely lose its shape on you. What we're going to be doing now is wrapping that piece we just made on the quilling comb. I think I forgot to mention the color on that one. That is a color called pumpkin, in case anybody's wondering. We're going to wrap this pumpkin piece around the pale yellow teardrop we already made. I'm going to put the widest end of the teardrop right in the center and then just pull the two sides up. I'm just getting this shape ready here before I glue it, so it's okay if that pops out. Pull the two sides up, and you need to kind of reshape it. That's okay. If you can't get the center of your piece that you made on the quilling comb right in the center of the teardrop, nobody's going to notice that but you. That will be okay. Try the best you can, but it's okay if it sort of slides to one side or the other. I think mine will in a second, you'll see. So, slight glue issues here again. Got to clean my tip a little bit better before I start these videos. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue all around the inside of that shape and then get everything lined up again. Pull to the top and then really only pinching the very top. I don't want to pinch so much around the pumpkin paper that I lose all of the work I did on the quilling comb. It will shrink down a bit, but we don't want to squish it so much that we lose the little shapes that we made with the strip, all that little negative space in the holes. Then I'm going to put in some pins on the top where it's meeting, just little cross pins to keep that really tight, and then one more on the bottom just to keep it flat. There you can see that the anchor that I made on that pumpkin paper, like I said, is not directly in the center. It'll be okay. We're just going to move on. Now this is going to be the next technique on the quilling comb that we're going to be doing today. This is a little bit of a darker yellow. I think it's technically called deep yellow. This time we're going to make another anchor just like we did before with the needle tool, but instead of going in the middle, we're going to go on the end of our quilling comb. The tail is in the back again. We're going to pull it through one tooth on the bottom, wrap it back around the top. Try to get everything as straight as you can. And then similar to the last weaving we did, we're just going to add a tooth every time, but because there's no teeth on the top, we're only adding one on the bottom. So we're going to keep wrapping around the top, bring it to the back, add one more tooth, wrap it around the top, bring it to the back, add one more tooth. We're going to do that so we get 8 teeth all together, and that is including the top one where the anchor was this time. So instead of the last one where we counted 6 after the anchor, this one we are counting the anchor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Holding that rest of the paper towards the top, tear off your excess. And again, this is the only time we're using glue for this shape, just like before, right on the end, just to hold it down, just the friction of the paper, and because we held it nice and tight, it's not going to lose its shape. So that's what we want this time, and then slide it off your tool. That's what you're looking for now. And you're going to want to make 2 of those that are exactly the same size. We're going to bend it over our thumb and pinch down the thinner end, so not the end that we wrapped where the anchor was. So kind of pinching and bending as I go, just to sort of give it a little bit of an arc, because what we're going to do is wrap these around either side of the flower bud that we've already started. We're going to make sure that the widest part of the shape is towards the top of the flower bud, and then the pointy part is towards the bottom. Add a little bit of glue to one at a time. You can go all the way from end to end. A little bit of glue all the way up and down. And then grab some pins again. I just find it easier than holding everything into shape here. Get that center piece down, and we're going to pin these latest shapes as we go. I like to kind of pin the point of that one right in the center to try to make sure that it stays where I want, and then pull the widest part up to the top, and then a pin in there, and then shape it. But again, just like before, don't squish it so much that you're losing all the shape that you made on your quilling comb. And there's the second one. Line it up so that they meet at the center. There you go. Another pin down there to keep that guy where we want it. And then just wrap it around. Just like before, we want the widest part to meet at the top. It's okay if it's not perfectly even. There we go. That is the third layer. And I'm going to show a bud later on that has multiple layers of that same technique on the same flower bud, but we're going to move on to the next section here. So now I am using more of an orange colored quilling paper, and I have torn a 4-inch strip and a 6-inch strip. They're both going to be used the same way. We're going back on our quilling tool. A needle tool or a slotted tool will work fine for this. We're just making more teardrops. So I'm rolling it again from end to end, taking it off my tool, letting it open up, and pinching one side. This is going to be the last layer for our flower bud. This is just a little bit more of a color contrast. That's why I chose this orange. If you want to make this part a little bit more subtle, you can use the same color as you are planning on using for your stem piece. Here I am just wrapping the teardrop around the handle of my tool, or you could use your thumb, just giving it a nice curve on the bottom. You're going to do that to both pieces. Then it's just a matter of gluing them to the bottom of my flower bud. Like I said, if you wanted to use the same color as the stem, it'll make it a little bit more subtle. I just kind of liked the bright color right at the bottom there. So now I'm going to just grab a little bit more of my Elmer's glue and just gonna put a little bit at the bottom of the flower bud. And we also want to make sure that there's a little bit of glue between these two pieces so that they stay nice and snug together. I'm sort of placing them at kind of like an angle on the bottom. Again, personal choice. I just kind of wanted it to look that way. I'm not sure why, that just was what I was going for. So the last step to this whole flower bud process is just going to be to make some quick stems. So this is a moss green, and I'm just doing my standard double thick strip for this. So just folding a strip in half and then applying some glue all the way from that center point to one end. You want to make sure you don't make any gaps because you'll get air bubbles that way. So if you need to go back and add a little bit of glue, go ahead and do that. And once you have the glue, you're going to flip it back over, make sure the pieces are all together, run it through your hands a couple times just to push out any air pockets. And that's about it. Let that dry nice and flat, and then you can break it into pieces into whatever length you like to use for your flower buds. So this one's nice and dry here, but quite long. I am gonna just run it through my fingernails a couple times to give a little bit of a curve. And then just a teeny dab of glue on one end. And then I like to kind of get it right between those last two little petals on the bottom there, or leaves, if you want to consider them leaves. So here are some little flower buds that are all dry. You can make a little fall cluster with these. You can make them into more of a filler kind of flower. That last one there has multiple layers of the deep yellow. I just did less loops progressively, and then I sort of dried them in a way where they wouldn't be flush up against, so it looks more like it's sort of blooming, if you will. So many options you can do on these. You can do different colors. You can do like a pastel for spring. You can do red. You can do whatever you like. I just like pulling out the fall colors in the fall time we're in. So as always, if you have any questions about this or the techniques I showed today, by all means leave those in the comment section and I'll answer them as soon as I can. I will have links to all the tools and supplies I use, including all the colors of paper, in the description box for the video. You'll also find there a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can check out some quilling extras and find some ways to support my channel, which helps it grow and helps me be able to keep making these videos. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be around for the next video, and I'll see you then. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.